We're back. It's been a very long, probably almost a month exactly, since we posted on here.
No, we've posted, 2 weeks ago, but we haven't filmed anything in like a month. Okay. Yeah. It has been a lot. We've been trying to film stuff, just not working because Asher he hasn't napped in like a week himself. Yes. And then Bentley, obviously.
Depends on how the night goes on if we're just making it by.
It's hit or miss these days.
We are very blessed, though, to be home with each other. Yeah. And to be home with our boys and spend time with our boys. So we've just been really trying to soak it in. And we have Bentley here in our video today. He's sleeping right now. He just ate. So we're going to talk about our birth story. Well, my birth story, but like...
Mine not included?
You're a key point to this birth story because it was a very crazy and just the story of it all is just a lot.
We'll just start the morning of the induction.
Okay.
And I'm going to let you start.
All right. So we woke up at 5 a.m. and I was very anxious, very like sick to my stomach. I don't know if it was nerves, the drink I had to drink because I had to prep the night before like I was going to have a C-section because nothing really affected if I didn't have a C-section, the prep, but if I was going to have a C-section, I had to prep like I was going to have one. Mm-hmm. So then we woke up. I just went in my pajamas because I was going to have to put on a lovely hospital gown when I got there. And we get there probably, I think we were late. We were a little, I don't know what we were doing, but we were a little late, probably scrambling around.
The problem is that this was like over a month ago now, so like our brains are like a little foggy, so we're still trying to like piece it all together.
Yes.
As we go along here.
So then we get to the hospital, we check into triage, and we're going good. And I'm not really feeling any contractions yet. Yeah. I kind of just like still feel kind of sick to my stomach. And my team comes in slowly and I start meeting like my nurses and the different people, which the nurse that I had, oh my gosh, she was the best person.
Shout out to Jackie.
Best person ever. She was my nurse through it all. And she comes in, she's like introducing herself. We're going over all the protocols, got to sign the papers and talk about the what ifs and happens in the C-section. And I tell them, well, my doctor already put it in the notes, which was really good. Like everything, like I wanted to be checked before we proceeded with a C-section. And she was like, are you feeling anything? And I was like, off and on, like contractions, but I haven't had anything steady. So they hooked me up to the monitors and stuff and start tracking those. And they were actually really steady. I just wasn't feeling them. And then one of the OBs, it wasn't a nurse, it was an OB, comes in, she checks me and she's like, you're a 4, almost a 5. And I'm like, okay, I told myself that if I was a 3, that I was going to try.
Well, you originally said 4, and I said 3 will work.
Yeah, I was like 4, and you were like 3, that's a good progression from, because when I went into the doctor's office, was it the day before?
Yeah, I think you were like
1.5.
Yeah, 1 to 2-ish.
And I was like the night before, I ate all my dates, I did my tea, I did my curb walking.
I think you just ate way more dates with the first one, too.
I did, I really... But, like, this
I remember you just, like, downing those dates.
This when I was preparing myself for a C-section because we really didn't think my body was going to do it. But I prayed so hard that week about it all. I had all of my friends praying over it. It was just, like, a God thing. And not to say, like, if you prayed over it, too, and you didn't get to have that birth, it's not saying that God wasn't there with you or that God wasn't in that. He knew the plan.
God has his own plans.
Yes, and he knew that... why you needed to have a different birth plan than what you had. It was so hard talking about that.
And you weren't, like, specifically praying, like,
no C-section.
Go into labor, no C-section. You said that if you want me to have a natural birth, not natural. I always say natural.
It is natural. Unmedicated is when you don't use medicine.
I mean, just, like...
Natural is through, that way.
Not a C-section. you were praying that he would show you signs, not that... you had to have
I was praying for signs over if C-section's what's going to be safest and he's going to get stuck, don't really let my body go into labor.
Yeah.
And then if you want my body to go into labor, you're showing me that, like...
Someone thought it was funny.
You're showing me I can do this and, like, everything's going to be okay. And so then she checks me and she's like, what do you want to do? And I was like, well, as a medical team, what do you guys... feel is best and safest for me. So then they talk to their team, they come in, all of them, like the anesthesia, the doctor that was gonna do my C-section, and they're like, we feel safe with whatever you decide on.
Yeah, they're like, they could go either way. They don't like feel a certain way's better, just whatever you want.
And it was so hard because I felt like I should do a C-section because it's like okay, there's no risk at all. But then there is risk when you're like, anything can happen in the OR.
I think you just wanted to feel better postpartum, which,
yes.
I mean, look at you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. That was my main thing.
She's looking good. Not, it's been a while since we filmed, but it's still not 6 weeks.
I knew, having a C-section from a bunch of different friends that had them, that it is so much harder on your body. The recovery is intense. If you have a toddler, you can't lift them for 6 weeks. And I was like, I'm going to give it my all. Like, the team knew to be on standby. If we needed to have a C-section, that we could go back immediately. Like, that was the plan. So then we went over to labor and delivery. And once we got in labor delivery, I progressed like 30 to an hour later to the 6 to a 7. We start getting hooked up to everything. I have an IV placed to do insulin drip. I didn't do that, which was actually really good.
I had to put an IV in her hand. I wanted to throw up.
It was so uncomfortable.
I watched the baby come out. That's for later in the story. But the IV was worse than that.
Okay, let's go back to the point we're talking about. And
sorry.
So we're in our room and everything's going great. We're getting hooked up. And she's like, do you want an epidural? And I said, I only want an epidural if we have to do Pitocin. Because I was close, but I was like, if we have to do Pitocin to push anything, or I just want an epidural. I don't know clearly why we did Pitocin. Maybe he was getting like his heart rate or something. I don't know.
I think they just...
We're ready.
We were all ready for him to come out.
I think they were
just like, let's get it going.
I was progressing, and I think they were just ready for like the baby to come out.
I was ready.
So the anesthesia team came in and gave me an epidural, which that was what I was most scared about.
It's a longer process. I don't know if, obviously we've only had one, so I don't know what
same.
Normal, like how long that takes.
It felt so long.
I would say it took like 15-ish, 20 minutes.
Yeah, it's probably max 30. But it was so uncomfortable, and I knew everyone said the back pain was going to be horrendous.
Yeah, dude, I just remember watching that like little thing.
It was, and it still is horrendous. My back isn't as bad. I just have moments where like it gets really painful, but all worth it to not have those last few minutes of contractions. We get an epidural, and I'm at an 8 at this point, and the contractions were coming in very intensely, but I couldn't feel them. And I would say it was like 30 minutes later, I started to feel kind of like pressure down there. Oh, they broke my water. My water didn't break.
Yeah.
They waited till after I got the epidural. The doctor came in when she saw I was at 8, and she was like, can I break your water? And I was like, of course, because I know if your water isn't broken, it can prolong labor.
Yeah.
And I was like, yes, just go ahead. And I think the epidural actually helped slow things down.
And then I remember at one point, they did like a test run, so like for you to push. So
yeah, they were like, if you like, let's see, like if you push, how everything looks down there.
Yeah, where the baby's at.
And they were like, okay, like whenever you're ready, just let us know. And they all just like rush in, and they're like setting up all the like exam stuff and papers and stuff. And then the doctor came in, one of them, and was like, you can't film until after the baby's out. And we looked at each other and we're like, okay. Which was hard to do because
I wish we would have asked more questions about it, because we were just like, okay. And then
and I mean,
still don't understand.
It didn't make sense, because even if we didn't do social media, everyone wants to video their birth.
Yeah.
It just was confusing. And with Christian coming in, and he held my leg because I didn't have an epidural. With the last one, my legs didn't have to be held because I didn't have an epidural and I could feel them. But the nurse was very like wanting you to be involved, which was really sweet.
Yeah.
I think she could sense that you just didn't like have the authority as like to put yourself in there, and you were just gonna be at my head.
I'm very passive.
Yeah. So how was that experience for you? Obviously, I'm about to push.
Honestly,
I'm feeling all of the things.
Very, very fun.
Yeah, I want to hear how
I got to watch a baby come out of you, which is
and something I'll never get to see, because like
it's crazy. I'm not gonna describe it because it's kind of graphic. But
describe how you felt in that moment.
Great, honestly. The worst part for me was like the IV in the hand, and then that needle.
You're gonna
in
make
your
me cry
back
talking about this.
With the epidural.
I know. I'm really gonna cry thinking about it.
But no, I did get to watch the whole process. It is insane that he came out of you.
I know, and I wish we could have got it on video, but it's okay. It's we have some pictures and we visualize. You saw
the weird part about it was like before, like the last set of doctors came in, like they were like, "Oh, I love the setup," and like all that, and then like one doctor came in and was like, we can't film till after the birth. And I was like,
maybe she just didn't feel comfortable on camera. I don't know. It was very weird. We weren't even going to show it, but
I don't blame them because I didn't ask any questions.
Yeah.
And I should have asked like,
why can't we? Or like, can we film just above the head? Or like,
which I already had it above the head.
I know. They obviously didn't realize that though, because it was a big camera. But So then we pushed him out, and all I wanted was just him to be good, healthy, and be put on me and get to experience that. I'm going to cry talking about it.
Yeah.
And I did get to experience that.
Mm-hmm.
It was so sweet. I'm going to cry. And I got to feel him, like, right away. Then they took him over to, like, get him all ready and stuff. And then that's when they checked his blood sugar and saw that his blood sugar is low, which is a good and healthy thing for him, because that means my blood sugars were great at the end of pregnancy and he was regulating really good on them. But when he's detached from the placenta, his blood sugars kind of don't know how to, like, go on their own yet. So they took him back to, like, the
First they took him to the nursery.
So they sent him there, and then we went to go see him after, like, 3 hours of him. It was maybe, like, an hour. I don't think it was that long.
When?
But, like, when they took him back to the nursery room.
No, it was 3 hours.
It was long. And so we went to see him.
But it didn't feel as bad because we got to see him before he went back.
Yes.
With Asher.
We got
to see him sooner than we did Bentley, like, after he left.
Mm-hmm. But he had to stay in there.
But he didn't ever, like, we didn't get to really touch him or anything.
So then we go to see him, and then my nurse fills me in there and stuff, and we're seeing him. And, of course, I'm an emotional train wreck who isn't postpartum. And they're like, oh, you can take him back with you. And I was like, what? Like, you mean, like, I can just take my baby?
We had no idea that he was going to come back. Which
we didn't.
He probably shouldn't have. He probably should have just stayed over there.
Because when he got back to our room, of course, he was doing good.
He stayed there for the night with us, actually. Well, we got switched over to a postpartum room,
which took forever because they were low staffed on rooms, because I was scheduled for a C-section, and I think the rooms are first come first served, so our room was given up already.
Yeah, he was born at 1 something, and then we didn't get to the other room until like 7.
It was postpartum really late. But luckily our labor and delivery room was a good size.
Yeah.
And it was comfortable for us. So then we go back over there, and the nurses are coming in to check on his blood sugar multiple times. And at this point, my milk had not come in at all. Like, I was getting more when I was pregnant than I was after. I think it was stress. I hadn't ate all day. I couldn't eat without getting sick. Like, I was nauseous. I hadn't had anything to drink. Yeah. And so they were like, we need something for his blood sugars. So they did formula. I was like, whatever is best for him to get his blood sugars up, please just, like, make sure he's good. So then when he got back to our room, he was latching and doing good, but it was taking so much work out of him and energy because, like, there was nothing coming out, that we just did formula that night, and it worked really good. But then his blood sugars were still not going up. Yeah. So they came in and they gave him...
And he was up, like, every 30... Well, we had someone coming in the room, like, every 30 minutes to an hour to check him or check you. So.
Yeah, it was a long, long night.
Yeah, that was the longest night.
It was crazy. And so they checked his blood sugars, and they still weren't going up to where they wanted them. So they did, what was it, glucose gel? Yeah. And then after, it was like probably 4 a.m. they came in, and they were like, okay, the doctors want us to take him and do an IV for sugars. Yeah. And I was like, please, like, whatever's best, let's get him on it.
Yeah, and then he either went to the special care nursery and then went to the NICU later that day. Yes. Or he went straight to the NICU. I don't remember.
He went to special care because we went and saw him once, remember? Yeah. And then they were like, okay, we're going to have to switch him over. No, I don't think we ever saw him in special care. Yeah. It was the NICU because we met Molly.
It's I don't know if there's like multiple NICUs, but it's called the Stallman Suite.
Stallman Suite. I think it's like
and it says NICU on it. But there's only like 4 beds in there, so it's a really small room.
I think it's just for like certain things.
Yeah, I don't think it's serious. I think
it's maybe really like they need like jaundice lights, or they need like IVs, or like certain things, not like oxygen and all that. I'm not for sure, but so when we were in there, the nurse was great. The colostrum, my mom brought it that I had in the freezer, and that went good, and that was his best blood sugar reading. But we had to have 24 hours of great blood sugars to slowly decline on the sugar to see how he would do. And then he did great, but he had 1 blood sugar that was like 1 number off.
That restarted the whole process.
And then you had to restart the whole process. And luckily we had great nurses. We had a great care team. The rules there, you could come anytime and stay as long as you wanted with your babies. You just had to leave during shift change. Yeah. And that was great. Like, everyone was amazing. And since he really wasn't in there for anything extensive, we still came to every feed that we could, unless I needed the extra sleep because he was on formula. And they all were just like, we did everything. They were just like there to monitor him while we were gone. So that was really good. Then I was released 2 days. We were there 2 days, right?
I think we're there 3 days total. So they're Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night.
Yes.
So 3 nights. We were there for 4 days.
So I was a patient for 2 days. And then I also got diagnosed with preeclampsia after again.
Yep.
Which they thought was going to happen. But luckily I didn't swell a lot with this one. My mom could tell on my feet. She was like, I'm pretty sure you're going to have it again. So I got put on that medicine and they watched that. And I almost had to stay an extra day myself. But then they were like, okay, your blood pressures are good. We're going to have to release you because we need this room for other patients. So then we moved across the hall to a family room, which was just like a little closet with like a bed and a shower and a toilet, which was everything we needed. And we were there all night. And that was the night that if his blood sugars were good, every feed off of the IV, we could go home the next morning. That night, I woke up for every feed so I could go in and see what his blood sugars were and I could feed him and just like be with him. And Christian worked all night long on our video, our birth video, so that we could get that up before we got home so that we could spend as much time with Asher and Bentley because it was Asher's birthday the next day.
And college football. Which Bentley was excited to get home and see that, of
And
course.
it was like we were in this room. Literally, we couldn't do anything and we weren't with him. So we were just like, we have to get work done because once we get home, we're not going to feel like it. And so then we go in that morning and his IV is turned off. And we were like, it's going to happen. And like, he had no other issues. It was just like the PTSD of Asher. Like, Asher, we would go in and he'd be all good. Then the doctors would come in and be like, no, we need to run this. We need to do that.
Well,
yada, yada, yada.
He was in there for like a day or two and then he got jaundice. So then add another day or two.
It was like...
I don't even remember how long he was in there.
4 days. Yeah. After
I think it was like the second day he was in the NICU. He got jaundice. So.
Yes, because we were getting ready to go home. And then they were like, no, you're not going home. And it was just a whole big process. But we go in and then the doctors come over and there was another patient next to us. And like when they were talking to the nurses, you couldn't tell if they were talking about ours or the other one. But then the doctors came over and they were like, no, he's doing great. We'll get you discharged today and we'll go home. And I'm like, this is amazing. This is amazing. We had Asher waiting at home for his birthday and it was great.
Yeah.
It was so good to come home. We surprised them all when we walked in the door with him. And Asher's reaction was literally so wholesome.
Yeah. He loves his baby brother so much.
He is so good. And I didn't even realize that some kids don't adjust well. And they don't, like, accept it as easy as others.
Yeah. Asher's made, like, having a newborn a lot easier there because he is so helpful. He's so kind. He's so thoughtful.
He's just like loves it. I don't know if it's because he was so bored of mom and dad that he's like, maybe we have someone else here.
He's really nice for a toddler. Like,
and he listens very well unless he's having a bad day. But we all have bad days.
Yeah, and he'll be like, baby crying. He'll go get a passy for him.
Or when I sleep in the mornings and you take him, Mama's sleeping. Shh, Mama's sleeping.
Yeah, he tells me to be quiet so I don't wake her up. He's so sweet.
It's just so sweet. And I'm excited to see their bond. I mean, they already have one, but like Bentley doesn't know what's going on. He just hears a crazy monkey. Well, that's our birth story. If you have any questions or anything, please drop them in the comments. We have a big life update coming up next.
We're moving. And we actually know this time we have already signed a lease. Just letting you know. So that'll be the next video.